What's up, y'all? Once again, it is Mallz, and I'm back with the final episode, the very last episode of Break It On Down. This is my series where I give the backstory and the history on songs from my album called Famous Last Words, which was produced entirely by D.R.U.G.S Beats. And this week, we are going to be talking about the song One Up.
I find the good in my life and hold on to it, cause you're damn sure gonna need it when you're going through it. Them late 30s hit different.
All right, so One Up was a song. It's a very important song to me personally, and I've gotten a lot of feedback about this song. Probably Native Sunshine and this song One Up are the two songs that I've gotten so much feedback about on just how much it meant to other people. That's why I chose to do this one last. For those of you who may not be into video games and whatnot, but I feel like that'll be most of you, but just in case you're not, One Up, playing Mario Brothers, that was when you got the extra man, the green mushroom. It was a One Up. So it's about the recent health scare that I had a few years ago, and I kind of chronicle, what happened in it. So this is not the first time that I've written about this subject, about my recent health scare. Actually, very soon after it happened, I was working on a project with my man from Chicago named Thessalonius. Shout out to my man Thess, called Kill Shit 2, and I wrote a verse about it. Obviously, I didn't get as much in depth, and we kind of halted production on that project, and we'll probably start it up again sometime later. Note to this, probably going to do that over. But this one I wanted to go more in depth about it because 16 bars just isn't enough for such a life-changing and life-altering experience that I had. And so I started writing this song was fairly early in my writing process. I wrote this around early September 2019. And when, I wrote I had a couple of false starts, I wrote, about 4 to 8 bars or whatever, and then started over a couple of times. It's like, because I wanted to make sure, I knew this was going to be an important song. It was one of those that it didn't just come out, finished form like it is, like it was, kind of evolved a little bit. And it was early on in my writing process, and it was initially I wanted it to be the single because I just felt like, man, like this song is so, important and big. I want to put this out in the forefront. But 1 month later, I wrote Native Sunshine, and I was like, nah, that's going to be the single there. When I heard the beat, I kind of knew what I wanted to talk about it. What I wanted to talk about when I heard the beat, and it was mostly for the vocal. The song that D.R.U.G.S lets play in the beginning. He lets a little bit of the lyrics of the song that he sampled play on it, and it's like hold on to your one-way ticket, and that just made me think about the one-way ticket of life. The you only live once thing. Like, so it made me think of that, and I was like, okay, this is going to be the song that I write about that, because it was a life-altering, and it could have been a life-ending experience that I had. And so usually when I write like a story type song, and this one, it is a story, but it's not a story, but it still kind of is a story. It's I try to give like a beginning, middle, and end. So this is one of the rare songs where I have 3 verses, and the first verse is mostly just setup, right? So it's, I kind of give like my outlook on things. So I start off, I find the good in my life and hold on to it, because you're damn sure gonna need it when you're going through it. Them late 30s hit different than my 20s did at the prime of my life, and almost blew it. So again, this health thing happened about 3 years ago. So I'm in my late 30s, and when you get to be in your 30s, and now I'm in my now I'm 40, like, you can't do the same shit you did when you were in your 20s and when you were a teenager. And I fucked around and learned the hard way. So the next 4 bars is, shoulda knew it, I was headed on a crash course, bit off more than I could chew or even ask for. too busy trying to get that paper like Strathmore. My 37th birthday was nearly my last, boy. And for the non-art nerds who know this song or familiar with this song, Strathmore is a brand of paper. It's a brand of artists drawing paper. They make, thick cardstock type paper for Bristol board paper, which like comic artists use to draw their art on before, or they used to before, iPads and shit. They make newsprint paper for charcoal drawings. They just make paper, sketchbooks and shit. They make paper products. They make pencils and shit. So trying to get that paper like Strathmore. That's a little art nerd shit that I just threw in there. So the next few bars are: ignored the warning signs, thought I was invincible. Junk food for every meal, so insensible. 300 plus on the scale like it's no biggie. Must have been ready to die on principle. And, for those that know me, and even for those who don't know me, because I if you ask or if it comes up, like I tell it, like I've always had awful eating habits, like just terrible eating habits. And there was a point in my life where like I would just, not even just eating fast food all the time or for every meals, like I would just eat junk food for like a meal would be like a big ass bag of spicy nacho Doritos, a fucking Reese's sticks bars, like, and a cheer wine. Like that would be a meal for me at one point in time in my life. And, anyone who eats like that, bad shit is gonna happen. And not to mention the fact that I was well over 300 pounds back then. For those that know me for a long time, like, I was a big boy, a few years ago. So, I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster. So, 300 plus on the scale like it's no biggie, must have been ready to die on principle. So after that, I kind of go into like the family history, because that also has a lot to do with, your health. You're not just your eating habits, but also your family history and things that may run in your family. So, the last couple of lines are: mom's a diabetic, pops passed of heart failure. I'm seeing previews of my life like a movie trailer. Boy, I tell you, life could change for you hella quick. I'm just happy I could learn from a negligence. And for those who haven't heard the song, or don't know the story, like 3 years ago, I was diagnosed as being a diabetic, and at the same time had congestive heart failure. And either one of them by themselves are no joke, but to get all of that news in one day was, that was a lot. So, my mom has diabetes. My pops passed away several years ago of congestive heart failure, but he also had diabetes as well. And he was a big dude too. Like he was probably closer to 400 pounds. So that stuff ran in my family. But again, like the fact that I just ate so terribly, just, it didn't even register in my mind, like, it can't happen to me. Like, I'm just going to eat what I want to eat. I don't want to eat healthy. Like, that's gross. I don't like it, and I feel lucky that I was able to, that I'm able to even do this right now, especially considering how bad it was. And so that's the end of the first verse. It's just the setup, for those who didn't know prior to the song coming out what happened to me. It's just the setup of letting you know what's about to happen in the story of the song. And so the chorus was one of those instances where the chorus kind of came quick, and I never try to make overly complex choruses anymore. I did when I was younger, but I try to make my choruses as simple as possible. But I definitely wanted something like just a one-line thing, because I didn't want it to take away from the verses. So can't stop Mallz, you got living to do. That's it. Straight and to the point, So that kind of worked out pretty well and pretty easily for me, as somebody who doesn't think he does well in writing choruses. So in the second verse is when I get into what actually happened to me 3 years ago. I'll give you the bars and then I'll give you the actual story of what happened. So I started off, 2 months of the flu and plus bronchitis, not going to the doctor thinking I could fight it. Vicks and chicken soup won't help you when you can't breathe. And in the 3rd month, I'm in the ER behind it. So shortly after my birthday, I was born in January. So shortly after my birthday, I get a cold, and that's nothing new. People get colds all the time, especially, my 9 to 5, I work in a call center. You're going to get colds. Like, that shit's just going to happen. So I got a cold, and I just, whatever. I'll just go get some fucking some airborne vitamin C, some tea, whatever, treat the symptoms, and I'll be cool. But for some reason, this cold just lingered and lingered and lingered, and it just lasted way longer than a normal cold should. So although I did have insurance at the time, and I still have insurance, I'm lucky enough and blessed enough to have good insurance. I was like, I ain't going to the doctor for a cold. Like, I just need to, whatever, just do better. So I'm, eating stored soup in a can, chicken noodle soup in a can, and just drinking a whole bunch of tea with a bunch of honey in it or whatever. And so it gets so bad that like maybe sometime in February, so after several weeks of just this long drawn out cold, I go to the urgent care, and they're like, oh, you have the flu. I never had the flu before. So I'm like, okay, cool. So they give me the medicine to treat the flu, the little antibiotics. Boom. After 5 days, I'm good. Well, I'm good after 5 days for about 4 or 5 days. And then the following week, like, I have asthma. So like, I'm having difficulty breathing. So I'm thinking it's just like, oh, I'm having an asthma attack. Now, my asthma is very well controlled. Unless I'm out here just wilding and doing crazy stuff that I have no business doing, like I can go years without needing to use my inhaler. But like, it was just difficult to just chest congestion. So I'm like using my inhaler and it's not helping. And I'm like, damn, what's going on? So this lasts for like a couple of more weeks. And I'm like, okay. So I start asking around first before I come up off that copay for the urgent care. And they're like, well, you probably got bronchitis. I ain't never had bronchitis either. So I was like, okay. I go to the doctor and they're like, well, since you just took antibiotics, you could either just wait it out and let the bronchitis go away on its own, or we could give you these other antibiotics to treat the bronchitis. But since you just took antibiotics, these antibiotics probably won't help you. So I was like, whatever, just give me the antibiotics. I'll try it. So I take the antibiotics for about a week and I feel better for about a couple of days. And then again, I can't breathe. And so this is going into March. And it gets to a point where I live in a 1-bedroom apartment at the time. I still do, but it's a lot bigger now. And I couldn't go from my bedroom to the bathroom without completely losing my breath and having to like stop. Like I couldn't lay down flat and sleep because I couldn't breathe. And I've never experienced that before. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. This whole time now, I'm still going to work. And my job is upstairs. And because I was a big boy, I was like, I feel bad about taking the elevator. So I'm going up the flight of stairs. And it's only the 2nd floor. So I was just going up the flight of stairs to go to work. And still doing all that, still doing everything that I normally do. But like just having to take my time a lot more because of not being able to breathe. So it's March now, late March. Or it might even have been April, actually. I said in the 3rd month in the song, but it actually might have been April when I decided. I was laying in bed one night and I just decided, you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm just tired of not being able to lay down. Like I would have to sleep sitting up. And I was like, I just can't do this anymore. So I just drove to the ER. It took me to the ER and they were like, yeah, you're not going anywhere. They gave me chest x-rays and all this stuff. And they're like, well, you have congestive heart failure, which is why I couldn't walk I couldn't walk 3 steps without giving out of breath. But then they also said, and you're also diabetic. Like your A1C is like, I think my A1C was like 13 or some stupid number. So they kept me in the hospital for a week, gave me antibiotics. Oh, and I also had pneumonia. So I had pneumonia, congestive heart failure, diabetes. I got that, all three of those diagnoses in a night. Like, how the hell do you even process that? Craziness. So it was heavy, you know? So that's pretty much the story of what happened to me. So now we'll go back to the song. So the next 4 bars, so that was the first 4 bars. The following 4 bars is, I'm thinking antibiotics and I'll be on my way. They taking x-rays and telling me I'm gonna stay. Now, I ain't never been someone you would call frail, but I crumbled when the doc said my heart failed. And like, you know, at the time I was 37 years old. Like, that's something you don't really expect to hear at 37. Is like, you have congestive heart failure. Your heart is operating at like some stupid low percentage. And I was like, I didn't really have much of a visual reaction, but inside I just felt like I just collapsed inside, you know, like it was like everything has just been gone. Like, what the fuck do I do with this? So the next 4 bars are, this can't be life, this can't be right. Plus my blood sugar's higher than a NASA flight. It cast a light on eating all them snacks at night. Salt and sugar almost took me to the afterlife. You know, and that's just kind of thinking back on my 30-something years of just eating terribly, junk food, you know, just, I told you, like, I would legit have a big bag of chips, a chocolate bar, and a soda for a meal sometimes when I didn't feel like cooking. You know, I would eat fast food nearly every day, and like, not even like decent, I mean like dollar menu shit, you know, 99-cent menu shit. And the funny thing is, like, growing up, when I would eat junk food, like my mother, my grandmother, and everyone would say, like, you're gonna pay for it later, you know, but you know, you're young, you think you're invincible and stuff. Well, I ended up paying for it later at 37. And so the last 4 bars in that verse is, instead is blood pressure medicine and insulin shots, heart pills prick my finger before dinner. I got to change up my eating habits, and it's the hardest thing to do, but I gotta ask myself, do I like living or not? And you know, that junk food thing was really what I think, you know, I haven't been officially diagnosed with it, but I know how I was. Like, it was a sugar addiction, and that shit is real. You know, like, there will be times where like I've just eaten and I'm good and I'm full, but then I have that little voice that says, you need something sweet. You need chocolate. You need some kind of sugary, something sweet thing. Like, and after that week in the hospital, when I got better, the amount of medication that I was prescribed, you know, I had Lasix for, you know, the water to, it's a diuretic. So because of the congestive heart failure, you got to make sure you have no more excess water in you. So I take a Lasix to get, you know, all the water out. I had atorvastatin for cholesterol, lisinopril and carvedilol for my heart to strengthen my heart and for my blood pressure. And then I had to take both metformin and 2 different insulins. So I had to take metformin pill form, and then twice a day insulin, and then after meal insulin. So, you know, that shit is pricey. And again, I got good insurance, but I still ended up paying a good like $200-something at the pharmacy. So I'm taking heart pills, I'm taking insulin, I'm taking diabetes pills, I'm taking cholesterol pills. And I'm like, yo, this is insane. So I had to change my diet. Like, like, I can't continue going on like this. I just had, and it's so hard, but it's like, okay, it's either change your diet or continue with this or worse, you know? So I decided to change my diet. Still difficult. Like, it's been 3 years and it's, you know, I still make sure that I'm pretty strict with it. You know, I've gotten to a point where I can allow myself cheats, but I also know that like it comes with a price. You know, I kind of look at it at in a certain way that I know like, okay, if I have this dark chocolate thing, which is, you know, has less sugar because it's more pure chocolate. All right, that means I need to match it with the protein and fiber, and I need to like go run or do something to like burn that sugar and shit. I know I can't have pasta like I used to. I know I can't have bread like I used to because all that carb turns into sugar. So, you know, it's a lot of mental gymnastics, but it's some shit that works for me. You know, I ended up losing now over 100 pounds. So it's working so far. I'm healthy and happy. My doctors are happy. And, you know, so hooray. So then I go into the third verse, and the third verse is the summary, the conclusion, right? And it's about acceptance, like accepting the diagnosis I got, accepting the medication routine that I have now, accepting the new diet that my doctor suggested and that I kind of modified, and just accepting this new lifestyle, because it's not a diet, it's my diet. Like it's a permanent thing. Like I'm gonna be the way I'm eating now is gonna be the way that I'm gonna be eating until I'm done. You know, it's not a temporary thing, right? So it's about acceptance, it's about conclusion, it's about where I am, you know, or where I was after, you know, I went home and started getting my health stuff together, and kind of where I am now. So the third verse starts out with, now my daily operations check for heart palpitation. Got about 5 years till a permanent vacation. Doctor said I was too young to start making my arrangements, but without this implant in your chest, you won't make it. So a year after, you know, the diagnosis or whatever, I go back, because now I have my primary care physician. I also have a cardiologist. So I go back to my cardiologist after a year, and they say, okay, after a year, we're going to check out your heart to see how strong it is. And if your heart has, you know, gathered enough strength, then cool, that's great. If it's not where we want it to be, we're going to have to think about giving you a pacemaker. I didn't want the pacemaker at all. And it wasn't even the fact of like me being afraid of surgery. It's just like, yo, I'm fucking 30 at the time. You know, I'm 37. What the fuck? A 37-year-old with a pacemaker? Like, what the fuck? Like, I was like, nope. But again, it's not a whole lot I can do about it, you know? So a year later, y'all go back to the doctor. They check out my heart, and they're like, all right, so it is getting stronger, but it's really not where we would like it to be. So I had to make an appointment to get a pacemaker put into my chest. And holy shit for technology, man, because I have a pacemaker / defibrillator in one. So it's going to make sure my heart's beating at the rate it should be beating at. But if I should ever go into like cardiac arrest or whatever, boom, it's going to shock me back to life or whatever, which is some scary shit. So it hasn't happened yet, but they gave me instructions or whatever. And so I'll talk about that a little bit in the next 4 lines. So the next 4 bars is scheduled for outpatient surgery and I'm stressed. Came out Tony Stark's technology in my chest. Fast forward, now I'm in the best shape since my youth. Checkups every 3 months to keep me attuned. So they did the operation, and you can't see it here, one, because I'm wearing black, two, because it's, you know, quite a bit of distance. But if you see me in person, like you can see in my chest where the defibrillator is. It's about this big. And, you know, they said like, hey, if you ever, you know, if your heart ever kind of gives out, boom, it'll feel like a punch in the chest. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not really ready to feel that. And luckily I haven't felt it yet. So it's going to be like a punch in the chest and you'll be cool. You know, if you get one of those throughout the day, everything's cool. Take your little time that you need to kind of recover from the feeling of it and just go about your day. If you get 2 of them in one day, you need to come into the office. So I'm like, okay, all right, 1 is cool, 2 not so cool. And yo, that surgery, that recovery, whoo, the wound, it just hurts. And it took a very long time to get used to the feeling of, like, you know, the device is, again, it's about that big, but it's not big at all. But it just took so long to get used to having something in my chest. Like, you know, I can sleep on this side pretty fine, but it's so weird. And there's the device, and then there's two rods, or they call them leads, basically wires. It's basically hot wiring directly into my heart. And it just took so long to get used to feeling that in my chest. Cause, you know, other than the pain of surgery, it just feels weird. Cause it's like, it's light, but it's still a weight that I didn't have before. And so it just felt weird. And sometimes I still have to get used to feeling it in there. So, you know, if you follow me on Instagram, I think I had the surgery April of the following year, something like that. And it's like, hey, I'm Tony Stark now, you know, got the thing on my chest, Iron Man. And so, you know, now I have to have frequent visits to my cardiologist, and also yearly visits to the doctor who did the surgery to just check to see if the device is working properly, which is so weird because they can control it remotely. They can make my heart beat faster remotely. That's some freaky shit. So they just check the device, check to see if the battery's still good, check to see if it's still working properly. And then I do my checkups with my cardiologist every 3 months. So far, everything's cool. I'm good, y'all. And so the next couple of bars are, now people act shocked when I walk in a room. Like, how you lose so much weight? I tell them meeting my doom. Dead at the honey buns, said goodbye to the fried foods, learned the hard way, life is short as a haiku. And even to this day, you know, I still, especially now that we're in this, you know, quarantine thing and socially distanced, and you don't go out and hang out as much as you do. If anyone happens to see me while I am out that hasn't seen me in a while, like, it's like, damn, you lost so much weight. And they always ask me how I lost weight. And I don't literally say meeting my doom, but I do basically say, like, oh, you know, just almost died. You know, that's how I lost 100 pounds, you know. And so again, like, I had to cut out honey buns, I had to cut out cinnamon rolls and all fried foods and stuff like that. Like, life is short, man. Like, are you gonna live? You know, you're gonna get as much as you can out of this life. And that's also why I, you know, have now, why probably my thoughts are a little bit morbid. Because I just want to make sure, like, everything that I do I want to leave, I said it in a previous episode, but I want to leave empty. I want to give you all the music that I have to give. You know, that's why I haven't done it yet, but I plan on starting to draw again, because, like, this is all going to be, like, you know, essentially my legacy. It's going to be here long after I'm gone. You know, however long I got, this music, this YouTube video, you know, my art that I've done, that shit is going to be here still. So I end the song with, now I'm live on arrival, living life like I mean it. Making every shot count, carpe diem, I seize it. Triumph season, odds are even, I'm defiantly breathing. What could have been a goodbye only turned to good evening. So, you know, it's basically saying, like, yo, I was almost off of here, man. Like, it's crazy to think about, like, because I was being stupid and just not going to the doctor, like, oh, it's just a cold, I'll be fine, you know, and eating all this high sodium ass store-bought chicken noodle soup. Like, I really could have been off of here on some dumb shit, on some real dumb shit. And y'all would have had permission to clown my ass had I died for some dumb shit when I could have just easily went to the goddamn hospital. So, you know, that could have been a long goodbye, but it was just like, all right, you know, we'll scare you a little bit, like, or scare you straight, you know, like, it could have been it. So I'm making sure that, you know, now when I do something, I'm not just doing it just to do it, right? Like, there's purpose behind the things that I'm doing, you know, like, if, you know, to peel a little bit more behind the curtain. That's why for this album, I'm giving a much longer promo run than I normally do. I'm trying to give you as much content, which I hate I have my issues with that word. I might talk about it on some other thing, but I'm trying to give you as much content. I'm giving you as much. That's why I wanted this album to be me and my story, and not just a bunch of like I'm dope raps, you know, because I got those, but like I want you to know like Mallz was a real person, and he had a crazy journey, you know, like most of us do, but you know, his journey is unique to him. Like, so here's his story. And you know, like I'm making sure that anything I'm doing, I'm gonna make sure it is done to the best of my capabilities, and I'm gonna try to push myself to be at the optimum level that I can from now on, because I feel like I ain't got no time to bullshit no more, you know. Not only just being a 40-year-old male making it here, but like not too long ago, like I almost didn't make it here. So everything I do, you know, I gotta do it like it could be the last thing that I do. And that's a fucked up note to end on, isn't it? But you know, so that's it, man. One Up, you know, I love this track, and you know, I've had, without putting people on blast, like I've had, you know, fans of mine reach out to me and just tell me in depth, like really long conversations, that this song meant so much to them, and like that they cried when they listened to it, because, you know, while they didn't go through the exact same thing that I went through, they were on that path, and they're like, yo, this song has inspired me to get myself together so that I don't end up like that. And really, that's not what I was going for when I wrote it. I just wanted to tell my story. But man, like, what's fucking with that, right? Like, that's so dope, man, that something that I created could touch someone in a certain way that they want to change their life for the better. And I do write songs where they are kind of cautionary tales, and it's like, hey man, you know, get yourself together. But this one was really just saying like, yo man, this is some crazy shit that happened to me, and this is why, you know, this is some wild shit. Like, peep this story, what happened to me. And the fact that, you know, a lot of people heard it and it resonated with so many people, man, that's really awesome. And I'm appreciative of all those people who reached out to me. I'm appreciative of everyone who purchased the album. Again, as always, that I say at the end of these segments, I got a download link below where you can purchase your own copy of Famous Last Words. It's on my Bandcamp. I got physical copies available on CD. So if you have CDs, or even if you don't have a CD player and you just want a physical, you know, a physical manifestation of that music that I put out, you can get you a CD, man. It's on all streaming platforms. So if you're the streaming type, man, just type in Mallz, Mallz, Famous Last Words. It's up there. You know, thank you to everyone who has been watching these videos, people who've been liking it and commenting, people who've been, you know, putting people onto my music on this channel, all the subscribers, man. Shout out to D.R.U.G.S Beats for the production. Shout out to Brian Kidd for mixing and mastering it. Shout out to DJ Jazz Pants for the art. Shout out to my man Todd for the art. You know, everyone who was involved in this. Eternal, Precise Politics, Sharp Cuts, just everyone who was involved in creating this album, everyone who has listened to this album, who streamed this album, who bought the album, who told someone else to listen to this album, just everyone, man. I just want to thank you guys so much. Like, this project meant a lot to me. And y'all really came through. And I appreciate each and every last one of y'all. That's it, man. It has been broken down, man. So for the last time, episode 12. Peace, y'all.
So you got living to do, can't stop. You got living to do, can't stop. Nah. Now my daily operations check for heart palpitations. Got about 5